to Story Sirens, the podcast where we deep dive into myths and legends from around the world, some of which can be found in our favorite books, movies, and films. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Yenny, and today we are traveling back to Egypt.
We're going back!
Yeah, we are going back. Because just touching base on the Egyptian pantheon wasn't enough.
Nowhere near enough. And it seems as though it was fate for us to return to the southern portion of the Fertile Crescent. Thanks to our friend Katie Horn over at Penguin Random House, we have found ourselves back in the desert.
We couldn't help but take another swim in the Nile, and we perused the bazaars and enjoyed the delicious sweets.
We met a fascinating person who would lead us through Egypt and teach us new secrets,
revealing to us more about this ancient civilization with every flip of the page.
and letting us learn about characters, new and old, that will forever occupy our dreams.
With us, we have a very special guest, an amazing author and fellow cat mommy. We'd like to welcome Rachel Louise Driscoll to our podcast today as we deep dive more into Egyptian myths and legends.
While also chatting about her brand new book, The House of Two Sisters, which just released here in the United States 2 days ago. Woo! Thank you so much for joining us, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.
Rachel, would you like to tell us a bit more about yourself and exactly what led you into writing a book filled to the brim with Egyptology?
I've got to say, after devouring that book, I definitely have Egyptomania.
Same, whether that's good or bad.
Thank you. That's lovely to hear. Well, firstly, thanks so much for inviting me onto your great podcast. I loved listening to your Egyptian Gods episode, and it's an honor to be part of this one. So I live in the northeast of England with my lovely husband and my cute black and white cat, who is aptly named Cleopatra.
Oh.
That's perfection. I love it.
I started writing from a young age, and The House of Two Sisters stems from both my fascination for Egyptology and my love for all things Victorian Gothic. I was homeschooled, and when I was around 7 years old, my mum arranged for my sister and I to have a private handling session at the local museum where I got to hold a mummified cat from ancient Egypt.
Oh, wow.
It was such an incredible experience, and it stayed with me all these years, and it definitely played a part in inspiring me to write this novel.
Sarah and I can definitely agree that The House of Two Sisters, or Nephthys, as it is known in the UK market, has us at the edge of our seats, and the twist throughout definitely made it hard for us to put the book down.
Rachel, would you like to tell our listeners a little bit more about the book?
Oh, I would love to. So The House of Two Sisters tells the story of Clemmy, a Victorian Egyptologist who arrives in Egypt on a secret mission whilst being haunted by the myth of the goddess Nephthys.
I love
Blending
this.
Victorian Gothic with Egyptian mythology, The House of Two Sisters is a macabre journey into the world of Egyptomania in the hot and dusty setting of 19th century Egypt, where snakes and crocodiles are the least of Clemmy's worries.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
On her journey, she makes friends and enemies as she attempts to save herself and what's left of her home. But keeping her secret safe proves as challenging as her quest, as she encounters adventure, romance, and peril along the ruins of the Nile.
And, might I add, dashing men too.
Dashingly mysterious and frustrating men.
Now, we did promise Rachel
And Katie.
we wouldn't spoil anything about the book. But we will tell you that today's episode will be broken into a few parts, just like Clemmy's story.
We'll also be bringing back some of the points we covered back in Season 1, Episode 32's Egyptian Gods.
So, without further ado, let's press on into the sandy plains of Egypt, shall we? Yalla! Unwrapping.
Huh. Unwrapping? What could that possibly mean? Well, you'll just have to find out by getting your hands on Rachel's book.
Ugh, love the marketing and my writing.
I just really love layering up all the secrets in this book for people to gradually uncover throughout the story. But there really is more than one meaning to the word unwrapping, as readers will discover.
Love it.
As we begin our unwrapping of this episode, what better way to start with the process of mummification? In the book, Clemmy is a certified Egyptologist, literally, that works side by side with her father in the unwrapping of the dead. The Egyptian process of embalming, or treating the deceased, took 70 days. Long time.
Long time.
Priests would first remove all internal organs, the brain taking the longest as it was done slowly in hopes to not disfigure the face. We're talking about a big rod going up the nose, you know?
Yep.
A throwback to the mummy.
Listen, the jokes you've heard of, oh yes, where they liquefy the brain. I mean, it's an oversimplification, but
Yeah.
there's a kernel of truth to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Only the heart would be left, as the people of Egypt believed the heart was the person's intelligence and self.
The heart of the deceased would be weighed against a feather from Mot, the goddess of justice, on a set of scales attended by Thoth and Anubis in the afterlife.
The deceased organs would be placed in specific jars, known as canopic jars, and were buried with the mummy. After the removal, the priests would remove all moisture from the body by covering it in a type of salt called natron. This would make a very dried out yet recognizable version of the person. After the body was dried, the wrapping would begin. Hundreds of yards of linen was used to wrap the bodies delicately and carefully. To protect the deceased, priests would wrap in amulets and prayers, sometimes even a mask on their face. Finally, the tomb would be filled with all the necessary things the person would need in the afterlife. This is very important because in their religious beliefs, embalming or mummification was also about preservation of the dead, ensuring their spirit would live on and their body would not be destroyed. There are two words to consider, which may better help understand the reason why this step was so important: the ka and the ba. The ka was a person's spiritual double, and the ba was the person's soul. I'm oversimplifying it because just researching that, I was like, which one is which? There's a lot of stuff going on with the ka and the ba.
Is there, Rachel, just to interject, is there anything you'd like to add about the ka and ba real quick? Just because, as Yanni said, we tried to streamline it a bit.
I don't think I've got anything to add. It is so complex, and over
Okay,
time,
right.
the understanding has completely changed and developed. So yeah,
Right.
it's complex when researching it.
Okay. So just so long
It's
as
easier to
this,
simplify.
great, just so long as this oversimplification is on the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. I've been greenlit by the author. All right. Once the person was entombed with all essentials for the afterlife, the spirit could go and enjoy the afterlife fully. Unfortunately, not everyone was mummified. It was a long and also expensive process.
70 days, folks, remember?
Yeah, someone's got to pay for that pension 401k happening back in the day for 70 days. Pharaohs, nobility, and even officials were mummified. Fewer were common people, which is actually really unfortunate and sad. I believe everyone has the right to a comfortable afterlife. Don't you all agree, ladies?
Absolutely. What I find so interesting is that animals were mummified as well. So it was usually animals that were seen as sacred because of connections with gods, such as cats, dogs, crocodiles, and various birds. But they were also mummified because owners wanted their pets to be buried with them, or because they were used as offerings to the gods. So this leads me to a rather random and weird fact.
Bring it on.
Apparently, so thousands of mummified cats were shipped abroad in the 19th century and used as fertilizer for crops. How crazy is that?
Fertilizer?
Yep.
I don't know how I feel about this.
I feel a very certain way. It's not a good way, but wait. Does this mean I should stop chasing the neighborhood cats out of my garden?
Sarah! What? You know what? Let's hold this thought on cats, dear listener, because there's a lot more coming.
You can't really believe we'd do a second episode on ancient Egypt and not cover our feline friends.
Shall we say
But-
feline fertilizer?
No, we shan't. We shan't. You know, I'm having a lot of issues with 19th century archaeologists and historians and
Yep.
everybody who's going, oh, look at this ancient preserved thing. Let's turn it into fertilizer.
Yeah.
All right. But let's stick with mummification for just a tad bit longer, because the mummification process and the history of the ancient Egyptians took the world by storm after a treasure trove of ancient Egyptian treasures were confiscated from Napoleon Bonaparte's collection and were placed in the British Museum. That's kind of what set the stage for Egyptomania to take England and the world by storm. During the Victorian era, which is roughly 1837 to 1901, Egyptian artifacts were immensely popular throughout Europe and the Americas. And a certain person who makes a cameo in the House of Two Sisters really took advantage of this. Thomas Joseph Pettigrew, born October 28th.
Huh. I wonder why that day seems just so important.
I don't know. Great people are born on this day. Of 1791, was an English surgeon, anatomist, speaker, presenter, debater, an experimenter in the practice of galvanism, hello Frankenstein, one of the founding members of the British Archaeological Association, and the leading surgeon to several charitable London hospitals and infirmaries. What does all this have to do with the House of Two Sisters? Well, Mr. Pettigrew was also an expert in ancient Egypt and its mummies, which led to his nickname/stage name, Mummy Pettigrew. He was known to hold private parties in London, which could consist of dozens to hundreds of people, where he would present a wrapped mummy before the audience, along with various funerary artifacts and accessories, give a lecture about the traditions of mummification, and would then unwrap and perform an autopsy upon the deceased. While perhaps back in the day this was viewed as the height of entertainment, I believe we can all agree that desiccating a corpse is both sinister and inhumane.
Yeah. Clemmy knows this very well, too, or so she will learn.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Our heroine knows this. So.
Yeah. Now, shall we go into the next part, ladies?
We shall.
Symbols and tools. Let me take a sip of this tea because my voice, I decided, Rachel, just so you know, we always have either tea or coffee in here. So cheers.
Cheers.
And today I decided to have both. So I had Cuban coffee, if you've never had it. I would recommend only a little bit. And I'm having green tea now. So I don't know if that was a good idea or not, but
You're doubling down on your caffeine, but hey, you're also getting your antioxidants.
Yes.
I'm sure my IBS is going to scream at me later. All right. There are two particular symbols we read about in Rachel's book, those being the Ankh and the Tiet. What are they? The Ankh looks like a cross with a loop at the top and means breath of life or just life. It's widely known and even has quite the popularity in modern media and fashion. Ankhs make an appearance in jewelry, clothing, and even at your local store as a cute addition to your work table.
They're also probably like one of the most popular tattoos I've ever seen.
Oh my
like
God,
just
so many
people walking around. I'm like, oh, there's an Ankh. There's an Ankh. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, real quick, side note. It's just, we had to do it, Rachel. We had to do it. I had a friend, and he had a tattoo in Hebrew. And I asked him, because he's not even Jewish or has any, and he goes,
Any affiliation.
oh, it's my first tattoo. And I go, oh, okay, what does it say? He goes, very seriously, basketball never ends. And I'm like, in Hebrew? In Hebrew?
Interesting.
So again,
Why?
that was the same face I had, Rachel. That was the same exact face.
Yeah.
And so now you talking about the Ankh tattoo, Sarah, I'm just like, why?
Because people don't know what they're permanently putting on their bodies. I'm sorry.
Not at all.
Continue.
Not at all.
Continue.
Alex
Continue.
absolutely loves it when people have like Chinese tattoos. He's like, oh yeah? What does it say? All right.
My dad used to have a very crass joke about that, but yeah. Proceed.
Let's proceed. It's a symbol that is depicted, and by symbol I mean the Ankh, not the Hebrew tattoo of basketball never ends. It's a symbol that is depicted throughout Egypt, especially when the gods are present, as they are immortal. The Tiet, also known as the Isis knot, is very similar to the Ankh, except that the two arms of the ankh are bent downward to form the symbol Tiet. It often appears next to the ankh and has a similar meaning to that of life. There is a debate over this symbol, which, Rachel, I will ask you about, as it also looks like a female sanitary cloth. Some historians preferring to call it the girdle or blood of Isis. Even more interesting is that some debate the symbol is also Nephthys, Isis's sister.
Yeah, this was such a fun aspect to write about, and I love researching the different symbols and hieroglyphs. Without giving too much away, the Tayet described in The House of Two Sisters is a very unusual depiction, where there is actually a duplication. And when we see that, a double Tayet really does seem to represent the two sisters, Isis and Nephthys. This is really important because, as the title implies, sisterhood is a key element in the book.
It definitely is, and I love the whole sisterhood thing. You have a sibling as well, which is super nice. Sarah was actually adopted by my family, and so she is my sister.
I now have sisters by choice.
We are, well, not by choice anymore. There is no choice now. We're sisters no matter what. But yes, it's really wonderful. The element that you brought up in that book, it did make me tear up because I do love my sister too. And I love Sarah, so I was thinking about Sarah too throughout this. I was like, oh,
right. I love that.
Yeah.
So our listeners are probably wondering, how do we even know what these symbols mean? Well, firstly, we can thank the Rosetta Stone. No, it's not just a program you purchased before your trip abroad and then forgot about.
Do you guys not remember those cheesy commercials about the Rosetta Stone? Oh my God, they were crazy. Did you guys have those in the UK? You guys?
I've never seen them.
I will send you. We will send you a link because were they cheesy?
It was this wonderful language learning software, but man, their marketing department really, that's why I'm trying to preface it. It's not just this software you put on your computer that you're rolling your eyes at. Like, the Rosetta Stone is really, really cool. And let me tell you about it, because this is important to all of Egyptology.
Yes.
Context is my favorite thing. All right.
Yes.
So the actual Rosetta Stone is a portion of a larger structure known as a stele, which could be found in every Egyptian temple. The writing on the stele was usually a decree where the priests of the temple showed their loyalty to the king. Now, what made this particular stele so important was that the decree was written on it 3 times. Once in traditional hieroglyphs, once in Demotic, the cursive writing of ancient Egypt, also known as the language of the people, and once in ancient Greek. We can thank Alexander the Great for his language being present upon the stone. Egypt was going global. When the stone was discovered, no one knew how to read ancient Egyptian writing, but Greek was a commonly taught language. So scholars got to decoding, and among those scholars was Samuel Birch, who makes an appearance in the book, tangentially. A brilliant mind, Samuel Birch gained employment at the British Museum thanks to his knowledge of the Chinese language. While there, he became fascinated by Egyptian culture and began to study the language and writings of the Egyptians. After becoming the head of both the Egyptian and Assyrian branches of the museum, he wrote his own hieroglyphic dictionary, later known as the Birch Dictionary, wrote guides on grammar in Egyptian writing, and even translated the Book of the Dead into English.
I remember us talking about that in our Egyptian Gods episode.
Yep. So, of course, his work is important to Clemmy, the heroine of The House of Two Sisters. But again, I don't want to spoil anything for our listeners.
No spoilers.
What's next, ladies?
Animals, hello.
Great.
Well, listen, you can't have 3 cat ladies on a podcast and not talk about cats. Come on now. Actually, Sarah, you have 1 cat.
I have 1 cat.
Hippo.
Yes.
I have 2 cats, not by choice. Maki and Kitty. And yes, her name is Kitty. Alex tried to rename her Suki to give her a personality, and I'm like, Kitty is enough.
Kitty is that cat enough. Is enough.
Yeah, that's enough. And Rachel, you have Cleopatra.
Yes.
So yes. And then I wanted to go ahead and talk about cats in Egypt. Also, we have to have a cat date, ladies. Though I'm certain it'll just be us talking and the meow meows sitting in the corner watching us or under a box or something, annoyed at our presence, but loving us enough that they don't want to leave our presence, right? They're just like, I love you from afar. Now, cats also make an appearance in The House of Two Sisters, but one of them...
Guinea? Yenny? Yenny? No spoilers.
Rachel.
Yeah, there's some
I
heartbreak.
know. I know.
That was
I'm
hard
sorry.
to read.
Tell me about it. But you can't write a book about Egyptology and not include cats.
More tragedy, apparently.
More tragedy.
Yes.
My
I
gosh.
know. I'm sorry.
Now, you think cat ladies might be a thing of the modern world. Nay. What if we told you that alongside all those amulets and hieroglyphs and beautiful paintings on the walls were one of Egypt's most prized little beings? Cats. Cue the Meow Mix jingle, guys. Was that not a bop? Hello. I can't wait for you to put it.
Greatest little jingle ever.
I can't wait for you to put it on our music side
Oh,
on the website.
Yeah, as an aside, both to Rachel and our listeners, we're working on the Story Sirens playlist, where it's just going to be a compilation of songs we have mentioned that relate to our episodes, or songs that are tangentially or directly related to myths and legends, because we actually cover a lot of music in our modern media section. So yes, Meow Mix is now obviously going to the jingle. What is
Sarah
this
loves
life?
Sarah loves to say, she's like, Yenny, your song references kill me, and because they come out of nowhere.
Because I'm over here, we're talking about Sinbad, and I'm like, oh yes, because Rimsky-Korsakov wrote an entire Scheherazade suite, and there's an entire movement dedicated to Sinbad, and Yenny's over here going, he was a skater boy. She said, see you later, boy. He wasn't good enough for her, and I'm like, you know what? It all works.
It all works. It all works. Now, back to the kitties. Initially brought in as trusty predators to annihilate pesky vermin, cats slowly but surely grew into symbols of protection and divinity in ancient Egypt. Interestingly, they were so loved by the Egyptians that, as mentioned before, mummified cats have been found in tombs alongside their human parent, in the belief that they too would venture in the afterlife. There are all sorts of findings that pharaohs loved their meow meows as much as we do nowadays, dressing them in gold and even feeding them with their fine Egyptian china. Is that a thing?
I'm sure they had really nicely decorative plates, but also sure pharaoh and emperor never met.
That's actually a very good startup of a joke. A pharaoh and emperor walk into a bar.
Back to the cats.
Sorry. Okay. But I just have to add that on my Instagram feed, I somehow stumbled upon this gorgeous girl who is obviously an heiress. I'm telling you guys, she is like rich, but she's so sweet and poised. And she's like, this is what I'm having today. And all of a sudden she talks about today, her cat's name is Oscar. I'm like invested in this girl. Her cat's name is Oscar, and she has a personal family chef who makes Oscar his own like food in
This
this
cat
like,
is living so well.
but it's like the plates that she used. She's like, this is the plates, and you can tell that those plates are like well over like I wrote $100. Come on now, she's using $1,000 plates, okay? And I'm just like, this is amazing. Modern day pharaoh cat lover vibes.
That is.
Am I right?
That
Am I
really
right?
is.
Yeah.
And just like our trendy queen on Insta, cats were also popular because pharaohs had them.
Ah, yes, I'm sure that's how the pharaohs of old wanted to be remembered. The original influencers.
They could be.
I mean, that's what all royalty has been.
Very true.
Absolutely.
But that was only a piece of their popularity. For cats also grew in fame due to a goddess, Bastet, or Bast. Daughter of Ra and Isis, Bast was first depicted as a lioness, but later took the form of a domestic cat and was known as the goddess of protection, good health, pleasure, fertility, and cats, of course. Due to her appearance, having the head of a cat and the body of a woman, it wouldn't be surprising that many ancient Egyptians regarded cats as demi-deities. To add on to cats, ancient Egypt tied our feline friends closely with fertility. Some depicted sitting under a woman's chair, which implied their connection to us. Crazy cat lady or cat connection lady.
You know, I do like that because in Norse mythology, cats were often a very popular wedding gift. So see, they're tied into like the marital and fertility aspect. But Rachel, I think you need to know, Yinny has a collection of cat statues outside her house.
That's
I do.
amazing.
Yeah.
I do. I will send you guys a picture.
I love it.
So, Bastet was also once believed to be an aspect of or the alter ego of the war goddess Sekhmet. Sekhmet was almost always portrayed with a lioness head, and Bast was usually portrayed with the head of a house cat, but sometimes, as Yenny said, she would have a lion head. But just like with Isis and Nephthys, these two were an excellent example of duality within divinity. Violence, fertility, rage, and pleasure derived from these two goddesses, and both had sacred duties to protect Ra and help maintain order and keep the darkness of chaos away from creation. Rachel, is there anything you'd like to add about Bastet at this point in time?
Um, I think just the fact that I think she's just really cool because people
is so
just
cool.
she is the cat goddess, so I
She is
think
the
a lot
cat
of people are drawn to her. And she is mentioned very briefly in the House of Two Sisters because she was actually the one who destroyed Arpep. Who was the Serpent of Darkness.
Yeah.
And again,
Sort of
that's
like the
another
Avatar
figure.
of Chaos, right?
Yeah, precisely. So that's another figure that is mentioned in the book. So yeah, it was really fun in the book being able to slide in as many mentions as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Well, because there is, I mean, it is such a dense, complicated, and rich culture and history to draw upon for stories. I mean, they have their own stories that lend themselves so well to so many other stories. So,
Yeah.
Another animal we run into in Egyptology and Egyptomania are kites. Animal, not the toy. These birds are predators who ate carrion and were also active hunters who sought live prey. Ties to life and death, And they were closely tied to the goddesses Isis and Nephthys. Surprise, surprise. Who else do you think we're talking about in this episode? In fact, legend demonstrated that both goddesses could transform into kites. If you recall from our Egyptian pantheon episode, Isis and Nephthys both mourned Osiris's death after his murder and worked to protect his body from further harm. In some legends, Isis transformed herself into a kite in order to bring the breath of life back into Osiris, her husband. Afterwards, Nephthys also transformed into a kite, and the pair circled over Osiris to keep watch over his mummified body.
Don't forget, Osiris was the first mummy.
Correct. As the popularity of the mummification practice grew, professional mourners would keep watch over the body of the deceased. These mourners would often be two women who would sing sacred songs and who were referred to as the kites of Nephthys, with one specifically being called Isis and the other Nephthys. This was a very serious responsibility that not every woman could qualify for, and there was a rigorous set of rules the kites of Nephthys were obligated to live by. But, circling back to our two sisters, it was common to see art of Isis and Nephthys in their full bird form or as two women with their wings stretched outwards in a protective gesture.
Nice. Now we get into gods. While we did go into Isis and Nephthys in our Egyptian gods episode, here's a little reminder of our favorite siblings. Really, our favorite siblings. The other two we don't like that much. Who play a big role in the House of Two Sisters. Isis was the sister and wife to Osiris. She is depicted as a beautiful woman wearing a crown resembling a throne, and is known to be the mother and guardian of all pharaohs, a guide and protector in the underworld, and a great healer.
Nephthys was the last one to be born of the royal quartet, the little sister to the great trio, Osiris, Set, and Isis. Also beautiful, she was depicted as wearing a basket on her head, considered the head of the household of the gods, and was guardian of the female heads of homes. The two sisters were two sides of the same coin. Nephthys, associated with the dead and the underworld, and Isis, associated with life and rebirth.
Nephthys and Isis are such a complicated duo, and I think it's those complex relationships that we can all find really interesting. They're super close. They're married to their brothers. Nephthys has an affair with Isis's husband, Osiris, and who then gets murdered by her husband, Set. And
It's
then
messy.
the sisters what? It really is, isn't it messy?
It's the
So
Housewives
messy.
of Egypt.
And then the sisters, they work together to restore Osiris. Their story is one of love, betrayal, murder, and restoration. And what made me pick Nephthys as a central figure out of the four siblings is that she's the forgotten one. She's the quietest, she's the youngest. She's described by Plutarch as being like invisible. Most people have heard of Isis, but in my experience, hardly anyone is familiar with Nephthys. And so I wanted to bring her to the front of the myth and see how her story links with Clemmies on her journey into the world of Egyptology.
And
I love
wow,
that.
it was
I
so
love
well
that.
written, Rachel. So well
Thank
written.
you.
It was really a wonderful story. And for the listeners out there, well, we're going to talk about it now. Well, ladies, we definitely will all be dreaming of the desert paradise that is Egypt and all its wonders. But I feel like we've only touched the tip of the pyramid.
I see what you did there, and I don't approve.
You never do. Let us move on to the future, or shall I say, the present,
All right.
with modern media. Now, I'm sure, I can't believe, I would like to think we did cover it in the Egyptian Gods episode, but I don't think we did. Hello, the manga series, anime, and trading card game, Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh.
This is all about ancient Egypt. Oh my God, it's written all over it. It all starts with Yugi solving an ancient Egyptian artifact called the Millennium Puzzle in hopes for it to grant his wish of having friends. And also ends with him always winning every battle because of the heart of the cards. So beware. The manga is way darker than the anime. And
Oh,
shall
really?
I really quick point out that when I first started dating Alex, he brought out a box and he goes, I want to show you something that's so important. I'm here thinking, she knows the story. I'm here thinking it's like a family heirloom, like an old Chinese jade or something that he's showing me.
Yeah.
Oh, but I'm looking at the box and it's golden, and I'm like, man, that looks really familiar. And he opens it and it's his prized Yu-Gi-Oh card collection, and I'm like, true story. I
love
go,
it.
wow, honey, and
That's great.
It's in our closet. You know, I'm hoping that it'll pay for my kid's tuition when he goes to college. But yeah, not only
Oh,
that,
that's
National
spectacular.
Geographic's The Lost Treasure of Egypt is a whole show about ancient Egyptian civilization. It's actually available to stream on Hulu, and some episodes can be found on YouTube.
I have recently loved the novel Cleopatra by Natasha Solomons, which is a retelling of the Egyptian queen's life. And it's coming out in the US under the title I Am Cleopatra, sometime in October, I believe. So that's definitely one to look out for.
Oh, just in time for mine and Mummy Pettigrew's birthdays.
Oh.
Absolutely.
All right. So there's our modern media, and now let's jump into our siren call. Guys, you shouldn't be surprised about your siren call for this week. Whether it's going to your nearest local bookstore,
Or opening up that Amazon app or Kindle app, make sure you grab a copy of The House of Two Sisters.
which is officially available for U.S. readers as of June 10th.
If you're in the UK, shop for Nephthys by Rachel Louise Driscoll. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me on. I've absolutely loved chatting all about the book and Egyptology and all the myths. It's just been so much fun. So thank you.
Oh, good. It's always so fun to get to talk to somebody else about, those special interests or those areas where you're just like, yes, I could spend all day talking about this. And that's why we have this podcast, because we love deep diving into these stories. We love learning new stories, and we love learning more details and more context, my favorite thing, about these stories. And it is so exciting to have an author like you on here so that we can share your book that's coming out. And again, listeners, we will reiterate, it's a fantastic read. Make sure to pick it up. And Rachel, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much. I've absolutely loved it.
Yay.
And before we log off, Rachel, do you have a website or social media or anything that we can promote?
So I don't have a website, but I do. You can find me on X under Rach Lou Driscoll. I'm on Instagram at rachel.louise.driscoll and under the same name on Blue Sky. I don't use it too often, but I'm also on TikTok under the same name as well. So
Great.
yeah, you can find me on a nice variety on there.
Yes, and you can also, while you go on Rachel's Instagram, she does have a link tree available that'll give you access to all the links that you could purchase her book from.
Thank you.
And also, Rachel, this is your first book, right?
It is.
This is
yes.
your debut novel. Oh, that's so exciting.
Yes.
So
It's very exciting.
Well, thank you for sharing your novel and your expertise with us. And listeners, go get the book, start reading, and we will see you next week.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Story Sirens. You can follow us on Instagram at Story Sirens Podcast. Want to support us? Send us a cup of Ko-fi by searching ko-fi.com/storysirens. We've got lots of treats for those who become siren seekers. All research materials can be found in the episode summary. Music by Donald Guzzi and artwork by Alexis Torres. Story Sirens is a Feather and Fin production. See you soon.